But what we can get into are some more camp updates. Miami's very secretive about what they do in camp. To the media and the fans, the negative, but also positive to them. Everything's pretty much for the most part kept under wraps. But recently, a couple of very interesting articles coming out from the Miami Herald. This first one here with Jordan McPherson. I want to just make sure I credit these people just so we know what they're talking. We know they have their thing going on. Oh, let's not. I'm not picking anything out of that. But okay, God, click off the ads. Anyways, this recent article from Jordan McPherson came out yesterday detailing a bunch of new updates recently between Miami, their different position battles, the QB situation, and within it, there was another really good article I read kind of talking about is Emory in this photo? He might be in this photo. But one of those things I want to just take away is backup quarterback and Emory Williams. A really good article I read from Barry Jackson down there it was a really good tell-all thing about how Emory's really worked to improve. And I know we've talked about him a lot in a negative sense. I just wanted to shine some things on there on him in his off-season improving so far. But yeah, let me fix that. Pretty much to summarize the first little bit about that, Shannon Dawson is very confident that this QB room is really good. I think the quote came out the other week that he thinks potentially Miami repeating in terms of number one overall picks, potentially with Carson Beck. We'll see if he's able to put those results out there. But in terms of Emory Williams, the Harold Jackson article was the Barry Jackson article from the Herald. Emory really worked this offseason to improve his mechanics, get a lot better, got in the gym. I think he said he's up to 223, I think up 10 pounds, get faster, quicken his mechanics, everything kind of improving. And I just want to say shout out to him because it sounded like he really used the motivation from the Pop-Tart Bowl loss and how the team and how his numbers weren't great. The team didn't really let him throw, and he's really using that to kind of prove himself, rework a lot of things with himself, and kind of get better coming into the season as the Canes backup quarterback. And there's a bunch of other things to look at in that article, but just want to toss it back over to you, Jaden.
Yeah, I know I've been kind of one of the anti-Emory guys as of late, but I do want to say that I'm assuming this is all very true. Barry Jackson's great at his job. If Emory does ball out, I hope Emory is balling out of fall camp. That's really all you want. You're rooting for him entirely. He's a great guy. I know that if he does become the backup QB2 and he's solidified in that spot and he really is kind of taking that next step, that's great. That's great for Miami because in the event that Beck, goes down, or something of that nature, it could be a concern. But I'm really hoping that Emory, I believe that Emory can then step up and fill in that role effectively. And I'm really hoping for the best for the kid.
Yeah, 100%. You hope for a guy, especially when you want to keep homegrown talent and you want guys to succeed. Definitely hoping Miami can can get the best out of him in whatever context they can this year. And then next year, you're like, if he works for it and he's ready for it, starting job. 100%.
I appreciate that credibility that he takes as well. That the Pop-Tart. You can look at the Pop-Tart Bowl. It was objectively a bad game. I think anyone can look at it from that. But for him to kind of own up to it and see it as a wake-up call, it's a very positive sign that he is aware of what he has to do to be better. And that's a positive step. It's a positive sign.
And I think it's another good testament to the culture where you have even the quarterbacks are constantly looking to see how I can get better, how I can improve myself. And it's more. Come and get humbled, and you be humble, leave your ego at the door, and come in and work. And I think that's part of a really good thing Chris Paul's helped create is this really solid culture of guys who are always coming into work, working hard. Ruben Bain was another guy I mentioned throughout the article. He looks healthy. He's constantly working. He's taking the mental reps when he can, learning how he can get better. He's consistently winning his matchups when he is, but when he doesn't and when there's something you need to improve, another guy who's constantly working to get better. And it's a good sign of, early things to come, greatness, the potentially see out of Miami here and now in the future. And last thing I wanted to mention is from that article was the receiver battle potentially. It could be a lot of a rotation of guys more than a what Miami had last year was a solid, what was four, it was the four receivers and then Arroyo. And I think it could be a lot more of a rotation this year of guys between the young freshmen, between the sophomores that are and Ray Joseph, between the senior between the senior transfers, a good mix of all of them to, we talked about these defensive line and this running back group being rotations of guys to keep guys fresh, but this receiver group could also be a mix and match, figure out what combinations work type of thing. Could also just be, smoke and mirrors where they're like, we won't tell you which guys to plan for. But it's exciting. It's exciting if you're interested in these freshmen recruits that Miami brought in. There's been a lot of hype about Josh Moore, a lot of hype about Malachi Tony, a lot of hype about Dalen Upshaw, and you look and you see those guys could potentially have roles. You see, obviously, JoJo Trader is the big name that everybody wants to see take off this year. A guy like maybe Nye Carr can step into a rotation. Maybe, if Ray is the slot guy working in between him and Tony Johnson, that could be something to look forward to. There's a lot of things to look at this receiver group, and it looks like Shannon Dawson, maybe it's smoke and mirrors, but maybe he's going to kind of use the strengths and weaknesses of everybody and, really creative offensive mind, worked with a variety of weapons last year, could do something even more dramatic this year.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Malachi Tony and Joshua Moore. I've heard just from a couple people that have watched a lot of fall camp stuff that they do really like what they're watching from Malachi Tony and Joshua Moore, to the point where you can maybe even see them getting some starting reps right away. That's a really good sign. From what you look at Malachi Tony, he's a big dude. He kind of fits that Restrepo build. You could kind of see him. I don't know if he will take over that slot role day one, but I wouldn't say it'd be a total surprise to me. But he's huge. He's a big guy, and we've mentioned this a lot of times that Shannon Dawson loves the slot guy. So if he really likes what Malachi Tony's doing, he's going to be playing that slot because that's one of his favorite positions, favorite spots. Mm-hmm. I would just probably look into. I'm not saying that Malachi Tony gets that start right away, but I know a lot of people. I'm not saying people within them. I'm sure people within the Miami building love Malachi Tony. I'm not saying they do or no. I'm not. But I do know that among the people that have watched fall camp and with a very little, at least that we've seen, that Malachi Tony and Joshua Moore have had great camps and they're going to be very, very, very good players for a long time in Miami for their 2 or 3 years or 3 or 4 years there.
Yeah. And you hope a guy can get reps and get in games as soon as possible because you don't learn, there's the old saying, you don't learn by sitting on the bench. You learn by playing action, being in games and being involved, the more than anything. And if Miami can really work these guys in and still be effective as an offense, it'd be really, really fun to see a big receiver group with a bunch of guys getting touches and getting involved. And it's also exciting as a Miami fan to see the future of this program, the future of this receiver group isn't hinged on 1 year of 3 seniors, taking most of the reps. Like it kind of was last year, aside for Restrepo, where you had 3 different was it 3 or 2? Sam Brown. I guess it wasn't as big of a deal last year, but if Miami can get the young guys involved this year, it'd be really fun to see and really fun, exciting for the future of this program.